谢谢. Dafa. I'm very pleased to be here today, and I do bring you greetings on behalf of the Canada Falun Gong Parliamentary Friendship Group. I hope that others of that group will be here today to address you. I also bring you greetings on behalf of the Government of Canada, on behalf of the Parliament of Canada. Welcome to Parliament Hill. This is your place, we're only the tenants. And of course, I bring you welcome on behalf of my constituents that I represent in Kitchener Centre. I do have a very special place in my heart for the practitioners of Falun Dafa. And I find that what you are attempting to achieve is of the highest order of human civilization. In fact, the only reason that China is allowed to persecute Falun Dafa practitioners is because it is disregarding a fundamental principle of civilized democracy which was articulated by the United Nations in 1948. In that year, the United Nations declared that recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inviolable rights of every member of the human family is the foundation for peace, justice, and freedom in the world. There will be no peace, justice, and freedom in China so long as that principle is violated by the persecution of Falun Dafa, Falun Gong. But I want to tell you that that principle is not universally accepted even in Canada. And even in Canada, we have cases as recently as a few weeks ago of religious discrimination becoming normalized. I was speaking about this with one of my Falun Gong friends a few days ago and telling her how pessimistic I was becoming about my country. And she pointed out that all of you began from a position of complete abject persecution, and that gradually, bit by bit, through Shenyun and through the Falun Gong associations, you have, with grassroots efforts and support, raised your case and made it known and attracted support and have had some success and even hope for greater success in the future. And I was glad that she reminded me of that, because I want to tell you that in doing that, you have become a source of hope for me. You have become a source of hope for all freedom-loving people. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your efforts in doing that. And I want to encourage you never, ever to give up that hope, but to continue the great work that you're doing. Merci beaucoup, thank you.
Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure and honor for me to be here and to join in with my parliamentary colleagues, present and past, to welcome you here to Parliament Hill, the center place of Canadian democracy, as we advocate against regimes that don't offer democracy and freedom of religion, and stand in solidarity with those who have been persecuted by those regimes. I first got introduced to the plight of the Falun Dafa shortly after becoming elected as a member of Parliament for Edmonton St. Albert, and I do very sincerely wish to thank the Ottawa Falun Gong Association for educating me on the atrocities that occur and the persecution that occurs against the Falun Gong in China, especially the imprisonment and subsequent practice of forced organ harvesting that we all find reprehensible, and that we all must work together to advocate internationally to put pressure on the Chinese government to end this horrific practice. So I'd just like to again encourage you to keep up the fight. Your efforts are not lost. They're not lost on me. They're not lost on my fellow parliamentarians. They're not lost on Canadians. We need to keep the pressure up to convince those who are in charge and responsibility for this persecution that respect for human rights is not an option, it's a necessity in the 21st century. So congratulations on keeping up your movement and your dedication and your perseverance. One day we will all conquer together. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et merci pour votre engagement dans cette cause commune. I'm delighted to be here to be able to celebrate with you the World Falun Dafa Day, to be here on a milestone 22nd anniversary, and to celebrate the values, as my colleagues have mentioned, of truthfulness, of compassion, of forbearance, of tolerance and spirituality, which are not only ancient Chinese values, but are universal values, and indeed reflect values of Canada as a plural democracy. So this is really a common cause for celebration. I have also had the honor of being associated with the cause of Falun Dafa since my first election to Parliament in November 1999 in a by-election. Indeed, this is one of the first causes I became associated with. And the first political prisoner that I represented while a member of Parliament was, in fact, as has been mentioned, Professor Kunlun Zhang, who was criminalized on trumped-up charges for seeking to give expression to values that are of a universal human rights character. And that, in fact, has been what the Chinese authorities' violations have been all about. They have been violations of universal human rights, as well as being violations of international treaties to which China is a state party, as well as being violations of their own Chinese law itself. Whether it be in the prosecution and persecution of Falun Gong practitioners, whether it be in the criminalization of their fundamental rights and freedoms, or whether it be in that heinous practice of forced organ harvesting. And I want to single out and commend my colleague and friend David Kilgore for leading the international struggle against forced harvesting, and who inspired me to introduce a private member's bill in the Canadian Parliament, which I believe will enjoy all party support. And I even invite the Conservative government to take over this legislation, make it government legislation, so we can move as efficaciously as possible to ensure that there will no longer ever be any policy, any heinous policy and practice of forced organ harvesting. So I conclude by saying that I'm delighted to be here with my colleagues, to join in solidarity with you, to join in solidarity with this great human rights cause, and rest assured we will always be with you in the celebration of our common values and our common cause. Thank you.
Hi. Soyez les bienvenus à tous et à toutes, chers amis, mesdames et messieurs. Merci d'être venus ici dans la colline parlementaire pour une cause tellement importante. As every other speaker has said, and I can't tell you how happy I am to see that so many parties are here today. You've had, I think, 15 MPs have come. This is a very big step forward, and all of you who caught buses early in the morning to come here from Toronto or Montreal, it's a tremendous thing you've done, and believe me, you're having an impact on this hill and in the diplomatic set, and I think among the public everywhere in this city and across the world. Some of what I'm going to say, and I'll be as brief as I can, you all know, but I just want to put some of these things again on the record. Falun Gong is a spiritual exercise discipline guided by the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. It first became public in China in 1992, and within 7 years, by the government of China's own estimate, as you all know, it had grown to between 70 and 90 million people doing it. That's a phenomenal growth. And then, as you know, that's why President Jiang Zemin decided that Falun Gong had to be eliminated. And the persecution started in June, July of '99, and it's gone on until today. And it's got to stop, right? Yes. Well, now, again, everybody knows that Falun Gong practitioners are considered healthier than many people. You don't smoke or drink, you are very disciplined, you do exercises every day, and tragically, a lot of people who have hepatitis or whatever, both in China and outside of China, think they must get liver, whatever organ from a Falun Gong practitioner, and as David Matus and I have discovered, there's a real effort to get Falun Gong, innocent prisoners of conscience from Falun Gong, to be killed for their organs. And just very briefly, the way it works is that if, well, I won't pick one of you, but if who can I use as an example? If you, sir, need a new liver, you fly to Shanghai, you pay probably for a liver, you pay about $130,000 these days, according to the websites that we've used from China. You check into the #1 People's Hospital in Shanghai. Somebody comes and takes your blood type and your tissue types and so on. And in one case we know of, it was a Major Tan in his military uniform who did it. They then go on the computer and they go out to a work camp, maybe forced labor camp number 50, and some poor man who's been convicted of nothing, and the chances are he's a Falun Gong practitioner, is dragged into an operating room, given a light anesthetic, his liver and kidneys and everything else are taken out. You are given, the liver is flown to you in Shanghai in a People's Liberation Army plane. You're given the new liver and you're told you're getting it from an executed criminal or something like this, even though, as I say, it's probably from a Falun Gong practitioner. You fly home to Ottawa with the new liver and somebody has been killed for that. I just came from Taiwan recently, and it was a man in Taiwan who went to Shanghai for a new kidney, and you know that before they found a kidney that was compatible with his body, again it was a army officer in uniform, surgeon, brought him 8 sets of kidneys, and finally the 8th set worked and he's doing fine, his health is okay I believe, but 8 human beings died so that he could get a kidney. This has to stop, and I believe, thanks to the support of people like the members that are here today and in other countries, I'll mention a couple of them, I think it's the tipping point is here, and I think the government of China is going to have to stop, because they're getting demonstrations like this all over the world now. There are 400,000 practitioners, Falun Gong practitioners in Taiwan. You can imagine there are now practitioners in, I think it's 130 countries. So, and here are a couple of things that other countries have done. Australian hospitals, some of them have said you cannot do transplants, work with China anymore. Yes, Israel in 2008 banned the use of trafficked organs. And since that time, not one Israeli citizen, to my knowledge, has gone to China for an organ. That's why Irwin's gone, I guess. That's why Irwin's bill would do to Canada what has been done in Israel, and why my dear friend Jason Kenney standing there and the other Conservative MPs, I hope, as he said about 5 minutes ago, will adopt his bill and make it a government measure. Then Canada will be the second leader in the world to stop the use of trafficked organs. It won't solve the problem, but at least it'll stop Canadians from going to China for organs. And I should say in fairness that I don't believe many Canadians are going now, but this will prevent any Canadians from going. Just a couple of other things. 1.5 million people from over 50 countries have signed a Dafa, Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting, petition to the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. In December of 2013, the European Parliament adopted a resolution against China's unethical organ procurement. In March of this year, the European Economic and Social Committee aligned with the EU Parliament, stating China's organ procurement are scandalous and a disgrace for humanity and should end immediately, close quote. And finally, April of 2014, the Transplantation Society, that's the World Organization, and the Declaration of Istanbul, Kustian Group, drafted a letter to the Communist Party of China calling their transplantation system corrupt and, quote, scorned by international community, and asking them to stop it. So that's probably a good place to stop. I'll be very interested to see what Jason Kenney says, and let me tell you, friends, that this man is, as you'll hear and you know, is a man of principle. He even went to the funeral of Zhao. Do you remember that? How many years ago was that, Jason? He went to Beijing and he went to the funeral of this man who'd been in house arrest for 16 years. That's a man of principle. So thank you all again for coming, and don't give up. We're going to stop this thing. Thank you.
I think you've heard, as you've heard, my name's Joan Crockett, and I recently became involved because I met some people in my constituency who are Falun Gong and Falun Dafa practitioners. And they had a very harrowing story to tell me of the daughter of one of them. The mother had been imprisoned and tortured in China, and she'd been rescued by Canada in 2007. Was very grateful to be able to come to Canada and to practice Falun Gong. And she explained that this is a really healthful practice that promotes, as we know, strong values of truthfulness and compassion and tolerance. And that's what we're asking for from the Chinese government in the release of their daughter, Yinghua Chen. So MP James Lunny from Nanaimo Cowichan, who represents her brother in Canada, the mother, the father, and the brother are all Canadian citizens, and we are asking for her release. We have so far had success in that her lawyer has been allowed to go in and see her. But as you've heard today, this is just one example, and I know this is why you're all here today. This is why we're all here today, because people in many other countries do not enjoy religious freedom. And we in Canada want you to know the message that we will stand for you. We will be here for you. We are your advocates, and religious freedom and those who do not have it around the world will know that Canada will speak out on their behalf. So that's why I'm here today. I'm here on behalf of our Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, on behalf of my colleagues in the Conservative Caucus, and colleagues from other parties who are here today. And I think this is an example of the kind of tolerance that Canada embodies. So thank you all for living those values of tolerance and compassion. We will stand with you. Sheshe.
Well, my friends, it is always I who am inspired and honored to be with you here today. You host some of the most impressive, largest, and most determined presentations we have on Parliament Hill. Today, we are gathered here under warm and sunny circumstances, but the real test of Falun Gong, Falun Dafa, is in the cold, in the rain, in the sleet, when you are here in equally sized numbers. Bless you. You know, Sven Robinson and I didn't always see eye to eye on a lot of domestic issues, but he commented to me many years ago that when he saw all of you here in the cold, in the wet, in the rain, it spoke volumes about your determination, your perseverance. And it has been an honor for me to be involved with your cause. We have much work to do. Some people have said over the years they appreciated my frankness and my speaking out on these causes. But you know, as I've always said, the ones who deserve the real credit are the ones who are behind the bamboo curtain, the ones who suffer in forced labor camps, the ones who protest, the ones who get tortured. They are the real heroes. Thank you for your perseverance, for your dedication to this cause. Bless you, and we shall carry on. It is a brittle regime. I know it will fall. And people that do business with them here, or those who support the regime back home in China, at some stage will have to make that determination on what side of history they want to fall. Will they be with those people who embraced freedom, freedom of association, freedom of religion, or will it be on the side of repression and torture and cruelty? And at some point that dam will break and freedom will reign there, and your cause will have been so instrumental to not only China, all of Southeast Asia, and the world. Bless you for what you do. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you here today.
From Falun Dafa in my riding office in Montreal, who have continuously offered wonderful insight into Falun Dafa. and the issues that you face. I'm here representing myself and Wayne Marsden, who are the NDP representatives on the Subcommittee International Human Rights. And I'm very pleased to be here. And as always, in the 3 years that I've been in this place, it's always very exciting to see the turnout of the Falun Gong community. So welcome to Parliament Hill. 22 years ago, on May 13th, the spiritual practice of Falun Dafa was introduced in northeastern China by Mr. Li Huangzi. That date is now the World Falun Dafa Day and is celebrated annually across the globe by adherents and their friends, families, and supporters. Millions of people around the world have benefited from the teachings of Falun Dafa, promoting the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. The practice has found a great reception and audience here in Canada. And as I mentioned, I am the newest member of the House of Commons Subcommittee for International Human Rights. And as many of you know, the subcommittee has studied the human rights situation in China for many years and numerous times. In particular, the treatment of by Chinese authorities of Falun Dafa practitioners. MPs from across the party, across all parties, want to see an end to the widespread human rights abuses in China and the persecution of Falun Gong in particular. It is obvious to me that the practice of Falun Gong represents an overall benefit to Canada. Its practitioners pose no threat to the security of the country, as it is not a political movement, but a movement of the spirit. Year after year, I am continuously struck by the courage and tenacity of Falun Gong. So, therefore, it is my great pleasure to be here today personally to give my best wishes to all practitioners and supporters and families, friends of Falun Dafa. Thank you.
I am the Deputy Leader of the Green Party of Canada, and it's my pleasure and my honor to be here instead of Miss May. We here in Canada believe in freedom of religion, and we believe in the separation of religion from politics and from the government and from the state. And the Green Party of Canada is very much in support of continuing, not only in Canada but across the world, the freedom to believe and practice your religion, your philosophy, your lifestyle as you wish. So I wish you the very deepest support from myself, from Elizabeth May, from the Green Party of Canada. Do not give up. We are with you spiritually, and we will assist you in your quest for freedom as long as it is required. Thank you very much. Sheshe.
Parce que, bon, en tant qu'immigrant, je me suis intégrée en français. Ma langue première, c'est l'espagnol. Moi, je suis née au Chili. Et au Chili, on a vécu la dictature. Et on savait c'était quoi la souffrance. Mon frère lui-même a été torturé. Quand j'ai appris qu'est-ce qu'était le Falun Dafa, et j'ai vu dans la page web qu'il y a des personnes qui se font torturer. Et que ces personnes-là font des petites poupées qu'après on achète nous dans les commerces. On est en train d'acheter la souffrance. Et c'est inacceptable. Et c'est pour ça qu'aujourd'hui je suis ici. Parce que je vais continuer à me battre pour les droits des gens à penser librement, à pouvoir s'exprimer, à exprimer sa foi avec tous les droits. Parce que c'est un droit universel. Et je trouve inacceptable qu'en plein 2014, il y a encore des gens qui sont en prison, sont obligés de travailler comme des esclaves. Ils sont persécutés juste pour leur pensée, pour la façon de penser et de vivre la vie. C'est inacceptable, c'est révoltant. Donc sachez que mon cœur est avec vous et que je vais parler avec les autres personnes parce qu'il faut réveiller la conscience de toutes les autres personnes qui n'ont pas vu la souffrance de ces gens-là qui sont en Chine. Donc comptez sur moi. Dans notre parti, l'NPD, on tient absolument au respect de la vie, au respect des personnes, avoir la liberté de penser. Donc continuez ensemble, donnez la bataille que vous donnez pour la vie de vos frères, de vos sœurs, et comptez avec moi, in mon parti aussi. Merci et courage.
CC. Daja Hao. That's as good as it gets, I'm afraid. I am delighted to join you today and welcoming you to Parliament Hill. As Mr. Woodsworth said, we as parliamentarians are the tenants here, and you are the owners of this great place as Canadians. I wanted to just add to what my colleagues have been saying today, that our country believes in bringing an end to persecution around the world, and I give great credit to our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Baird, who has been a very strong proponent to bringing an end to persecution, and specifically to that experienced by you and your Falun Dafa and Falun Gong colleagues and friends. We need to see an end to persecution in this country, in this world, and for that to happen, our government and our ministers of the cabinet are a strong voice to bringing an end to that persecution. I welcome you and I thank you for being a part of this day today. I also want to mention that as a member of the government, and again in joining my colleagues on all parties, we have through our Minister of Foreign Affairs, we've established the Office of Religious Freedom. That was no small task, and the ambassador in that capacity is a strong voice for freedom and an end to persecution in countries across the world. And in China specifically, we want to see an end to persecution of so many religious groups, including Christians, including Falun Gong. And so I welcome you today. I join you in your quest for freedom and an end to persecution, and I thank you for allowing me a few minutes to join you. Tsitsi.